there's been a lot of reports coming out saying that essentially Deshaun Watson's future with Houston is really up in the air in this point. We don't know whether or not we're going to see him in preseason games. There's still a lot of ongoing legal issues that he's currently sorting out through off the field. And guys, just with everything kind of coalescing together at this moment, you know, is it safe to say that we have seen the last of Deshaun Watson playing for the Houston Texans, or is there still a chance that we do get to see him at some point this season?
I think it's the last time that we saw him. One, because he wants out, and two, because I think the bridges are burned. He was such in a disarray with the relationship of how things were handled, starting from the GM that they signed because he felt like he had no input as far as who they were going to sign, and as far as when they signed the head coach, even though the coach was someone that Deshaun previously was, new, he had no input. So I felt like he felt like the Texans just did wrong by him as far as not being able to him have an input on what the franchise can do. And with the whole situation going on as far as his legal issues, I mean, I think ultimately it does stain his reputation, but I do think NFL's the league, the land. It's like the league of second chances. Whatever it is that you've done in the past, I feel like some team ultimately will end up giving you a second chance.
Except for Ray
So
Rice.
I, except for Ray Rice, that's correct. So I do think that he ends up playing elsewhere. If I was Miami, I don't think Tua's the answer. So I would get Tua. Couple, you have a shitload of first round picks. Go ahead and trade them for Deshaun. I think Miami would be an instant contender in the AFC if they made it. If they made that trade, but I just don't see him staying in a place where one, he doesn't want to be there. Two, the relationship's not good, even though they're paying him a shitload of money. So I could definitely see him sit out this entire year, and then probably by next year they'll end up trading him.
Kevin, go ahead.
So, I mean, with what I read this morning, he's not playing in the preseason. He's not getting the full salaried amount, and he's not being put on the exempt list, which means even if the NFL were to conduct their own individual investigation and came back before the regular season were to start, he's not going to get that lump sum of an amount because a lot of his legal issues are currently pending with the civil suits and the actual legal lawsuits. So, I mean, like, there's just so much stuff going on right now in Deshaun Watson's camp. Deshaun Watson individually as a player. I mean, I'm reading an article here. He snapped at the media today for the first time saying, "Why you guys always recording me and asking me the same exact questions every single day like I can answer it?" I mean, I don't blame him. Everybody has a boiling point. But I mean, you're in the media for 22 individual civil suits. Do you expect them not to ask you quite like, come on, man? You're not only a star quarterback in this league, you now have a legal four-headed stamp that says "I fucked up" on your face every single day. Of course they're gonna ask. It's literally their job. They get paid to ask questions, no matter how repetitive or annoying. Like, get over it. You did it to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the spotlight you've put yourself into. This is the situation that you're in, and you got to deal with it. Now, I don't think that he leaves Houston because Houston had a lot of opportunities to trade him this offseason with the multitude of offers that they had received from so many different teams. And if they were going to trade him, they would have done it earlier. And they've come out and said, as early as I believe earlier this week, they said that they have no plans on releasing him. So he's probably just going to be stuck on that roster, getting small incremental payments, or if this turns south, they might cut him. But I mean, they don't plan on trading him, from what I'm reading and understanding. The only team I know that has actually still been in contact with Houston has been Philadelphia, and trade talks were heating up supposedly last week. So I mean, I don't necessarily know what happened, where that went, or where they fell apart. But as I said it to Kyle, and we talked about, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before that. I don't necessarily know if that's a good idea for Philadelphia to get rid of their current picks and their future, as well as their current quarterback that is Jalen Hurts, to go and trade for somebody that probably isn't going to play this year. So it's like a wasted trade. You give up everything for someone that might not touch the field again. So if you would have asked me 3-4 months ago, I would have said, yeah, do it while you can. But now seeing how bad this is starting to stir up, not only in Houston, but as an overall NFL perspective, Kyle might be right. We might not see this man on the field ever again unless these cases either come to an agreement in terms of a settlement or they go away. Because if the NFL can't even conduct an investigation of their own, who's to say this doesn't go on for a few years? I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge, so I can't say that I know, but it's just like I said earlier, it's super sad to see one of my more favorite players that's definitely not English, but somebody that I enjoyed watching on Sundays, even if he was in my division to play against. The man just lit the field up every time he touched it. I mean, I picked him every single year for fantasy for the last like 3 seasons in a row. And in one of those years, I won my championship. So it's like I grew to want to watch him because of fantasy, and like watching him play in college made me love him more. So you hate to see it, but I mean, in situations like this, what are you going to do?
It's kind of weird for me because there's just so much in limbo right now. And, granted, he's on the practice field, he's practicing with the Texans, but it's under this assumption that we're probably not going to see him play, in any sort of regular season capacity for Houston. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's just in a situation where things could go very south very quick. And I'm not talking about the civil lawsuits that he's already involved in. The reason why I think a lot of teams are just in no way, shape, or form even really considering a trade for him at this point is because of there's a very good chance that he's going to get criminal proceedings in court within the next couple months. You know, the main focus has always been these civil suits that have been brought up against him. When the focus starts changing to a criminal element instead of a civil element, teams are going to say, no way are we going to make any sort of investment in Deshaun Watson long term. So that's where it essentially ends any sort of trade discussion. I actually have a Pro Football Talk article pulled up here, and it mentioned that the Eagles and the Houston Texans may have been involved in some sort of speculation of some sort of trade going on. That is not the case. And it really is due to the fact that a lot of teams and a lot of NFL GMs are expecting this to even get worse for Deshaun Watson if these proceedings end up going to criminal charges, not just civil ones. So when I look at Deshaun Watson this year, I think by and large, I think he's not going to hit the field this year just because I, I think he's going to be looked at as like a pariah. Not only, obviously off the field he is, but on the field, I think he's going to get absolutely roasted if he ends up playing a snap this year. But you throw in those criminal elements as far as, him possibly getting pretty significant criminal charges in a court setting, there's a very good chance, depending on how that goes in court, that we may never see Deshaun Watson play in the NFL again.